supporting water treatment professionals since 1989. When you choose a blender, you choose a partner. At Qualichem, the blender matters because their only job is to provide solutions that help your water treatment business succeed. They're a private label formulating manufacturer that never sells directly to end users, so you never compete against them. Instead, they provide regional water treatment service companies with quality products, sales and technical support, and application-specific formulations that carry your brand. That's why thousands of professionals rely on Qualichem across North America and beyond. To learn more and see why the blender matters, go to scalinguph2o.com/Qualichem. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/Qualichem. At Qualichem, we know the blender matters. What could 100,000 hours of water treatment sales experience do for your next sales meeting? Lauren Real turns a career of top-ranked performance into practical training and talks that help your team win more business and keep the accounts they already have. Blending game theory concepts with Harvard and Princeton-backed research, Lauren doesn't bring hype, he brings sales conversations that water treaters understand and can actually use. He works with water treatment companies to train sales teams, lead interactive workshops, and speak at business and sales meetings focused on growing new revenue and strengthening customer relationships. If you want your next meeting to spark real ideas and follow-up, visit scalinguph2o.com/Real Water and see how Lauren Real can help your sales team sell more on purpose. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/Real Water. Real sales training, real sales motivation, and real sales experience. That's Real Water. Welcome to the Scaling Up H2O podcast, the podcast where we scale up on knowledge so we don't scale up our systems. I'm Trace Blackmore, the host of the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And Nation, last week was so much fun. We did a Pinks and Blues episode, all from questions from you, the Scaling Up Nation. And they were questions from people all around the world on all different episodes of the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And that was just a lot of fun for me to put together. I mentioned on just about every episode that I need your help with podcasts. And I need to know what questions you have, what topics you want to hear about, and who you want me to interview. And last week's episode was all about that. You answered that call, and an entire episode was all about your question. So hopefully you heard your question on the air. If you didn't, just wait. It'll get on there eventually. And if we didn't hear it because you haven't asked it yet, well, you know how to change that. You can go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to our show ideas page, and let us know exactly what it is that you want to hear. And we will try to accommodate you. Nation, we are always looking for the best way to serve you on the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And if you haven't been to our website in a while, my team tries to do that very thing each and every day. Every meeting we have, it's how can we serve the nation even better? So we have discussion guides. We have all sorts of different information that you might not have even known existed if you haven't been to scalinguph2o.com in a while. So go ahead, look up the last episode that you listened to and look for all of the tools that we put along with that episode so you can continue learning and maybe even continue that learning onto your team or other people that you have within your life. We're trying to bring this information to life so we can achieve what our mission is. And that, of course, is raising the bar in the industrial water treatment industry, one water treater at a time. Well, a water treater that has been raising the bar at least ever since I've had this podcast, but he's been doing a lot longer than that, is our friend James McDonald. And here is a brand new Words of Water.
Hello and welcome to Words of Water with James, the industrial water game show where I give you the definition and you get to guess the word or phrase being defined. Will you rise to the top or get blown down to try your luck another day? There's only one way to find out on Words of Water with James. Today's definition is a measure of the tendency of a volatile substance, such as a neutralizing amine, to remain in the steam phase. It is defined as the ratio of the concentration of the substance in the steam phase to its concentration in the liquid phase. Can you guess the word or phrase? The answer is distribution ratio. Okay, for those who got it correct, step to the right. For those who got it wrong, please step to the left. Please exit stage right. I'm James McDonald, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Words of Water with James.
James, thank you for that. And Nation, if you need to catch up with any of those, you can find those on our show notes pages on our website. So make sure you are keeping up with each one of the words of water because you don't want to get left behind. Speaking of not getting left behind, you do not want to get left behind if there is a particular event that is out there that can help you be a better water treater, that can help you meet the right people to help you be a water treater and help you have fun in the process. Well, Nation, get your calendars out. Here are some things that we're going to talk about. And the first one is the 2026 Annual Association of Water Technologies Convention and Expo that is taking place at the Oklahoma Convention Center and Omni Hotel, September 16th through 19th. And folks, let me tell you, if you practice the type of water treatment that I do, this is the event that you want to go to. Now, I and the Scaling Up H2O podcast are the official podcast of AWT, so you're going to see me there. Hopefully, we're going to be doing some fun things with the podcast that you can come up and join me with. There are going to be some great educational sessions. There's going to be great opportunities for networking. And again, I hope that I see you there. So go to our events page, and we're going to have everything you need to register for that. While you're there, if you are a business owner, check that out too, because September 15th, the day before, they have their business owners meeting, and so much networking takes place then, and a lot of great information. We're going to have information for you on that as well, but you've got to go to it to get to it. So go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to our events pages, and we're going to have all of that for you. While you're there, check out the American Chemical Society 2026 Expo. That's taking place in Chicago, Illinois, August 23rd through 27th. This is where thousands of chemistry professionals come together to share ideas and advance scientific research and technical knowledge. So many listeners out there are members of the American Chemical Society, and they're expecting about 15,000 chemists this year. How cool is that? So again, August 23rd through 27th, we're going to have all that information on our events page. Maybe that's one that you want to go to. And coming up just next month, which is August, Legionella Awareness Month, each and every Friday, a brand new episode. That's not new, but we're going to have a Legionella or waterborne pathogen expert each and every Friday that month. That's not new either. We've been doing it for several years. So many of you love it. We bring it back every year. And this year is going to be no different. You're going to love the guests that we have, and you are truly going to learn with each and every guest. That is all next month. Can't wait to bring those episodes to you. Nation, having this podcast allows me to meet people that I wouldn't have any other way met. And through a friend of a friend of a friend, I met our next guest. And he's going to be talking about a problem you might not even know that your customers are experiencing. And now, not only are you going to know about it, you're going to learn about a tool where you can help them fix it. Here's that interview. My lab partner today is Anthony Giudice of Aquaflow Technologies. Anthony, welcome to the Scaling Up H2O podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Anthony, do you mind introducing yourself to the Scaling Up Nation?
Sure. My name is Anthony Giudice. I am the president of Aquaflow, and we manufacture a device that solves a unique situation that occurs in water flow systems, which will force your meter to read true water consumption versus a combination of an air and water mixture.
And that's what we're talking about today. Let me ask, what does the term meter optimization mean?
Well, meters, unfortunately, people don't like to hear this, but they're designed to register volume. Volume is anything that passes underneath the meter. This could be water, air, which we'll be discussing today. So when that combination of that air and water falls under that meter cannot distinguish between either or, so it registers both. So when we're talking in terms of optimization, it would be forcing the meter to read true water consumption. Paying for a commodity, the commodity is water. You should not be paying for both air and water. And that's what our device, it solves that issue.
So is this a common problem where there's just entrained air in all the water and we're not really metering the water we're taking in? Everybody's metering water and air?
Correct. It's not, and it doesn't just exist in this vertical, so to speak. Long existed in gas and oil for a very long time. I mean, imagine buying a tanker full of oil and it gets there and you're missing a few 100,000 gallons. You have a problem. So this technology has been there a long, long time. Siemens, Honeywell, companies like that make products for that specific industry. Water obviously has come on the radar in the last 20 plus years, obviously coming on more and more expensive as we all see. And, hence here we are with this product in now this vertical.
Where does the entrained air come from?
It comes from, well, first of all, the municipality needs to move the water. It's sitting at the municipality. And let's say your house is approximately 5 miles away. Well, how does it get there? It needs to be pushed along, obviously, air, pumps. So it's pushed along. And when water travels through a pipe, any pipe more than 10 meters, which is approximately 30 feet, it will turn into what's called a turbulent flow. There's a really good visualization on our website where you can actually see a video where the water will turn into the turbulent flow. Inside of that turbulent flow, the more it travels, the more people are opening and closing consumption points along the way, the more back pressure it's putting into the system, and even more turbulence. When it makes a turn, when it goes up, when it goes down, it just gets more and more turbulent. So ultimately, when it ends up at its ultimate location, it's in a very turbulent flow, having serious overreading on the meter. And aside from that, there's a plethora of things that the valve does to protect the plumbing from the inside, which comes from symptoms of having a turbulent flow, of, coming in, smashing around in your pipes, your booster pumps, things like that.
So, most of our listeners today are industrial water treaters, and something they're talking to their customers about is secondary metering. So, they've got the meter that comes into the main building, but then with something like a cooling tower, they want to meter the water that's going into the cooling tower because most of it's getting evaporated, and they want to meter the bleed that's coming out so they can get a credit for that. So if we were to apply the technology that we're talking about to the cooling tower, what would you say about that?
The interesting thing is, as I mentioned about the turbulent flow and laminar flow, once the valve is installed on your side of the property, but affects water that has not passed through yet, anywhere from 50 to 100 feet in front of the valve, which the water will be in that laminar flow. Once the water travels through the valve, it will instantly start to decompress and go back to its turbulent flow. Although it took 5 miles to get that turbulent, you don't have 5 miles on your property. It's not going to get that turbulent again, although it will pick up some turbulence and go back to its turbulent flow. Therefore, the overreading will actually occur on those other meters to a degree, meaning it'll go back to its turbulent flow and have some turbulence in there. Therefore, that turbulence will be registered secondary. So, for example, we install these in like 45 different countries, and every country is different. But in Oman, for example, they do a lot of sub-metering there. So the property owner puts the valve on the meter, they get the savings, but on their customers, it really doesn't. It saves a little bit for them, but not a lot. So they get the overreading, they get the savings, and they obviously don't pass that on to their customers.
Now, I think you just mentioned this, but a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, well, if the problem's coming from the municipality, they have to install it on their side of the meter. But you say, no, it actually works on our side of the meter. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So it's absolutely illegal in any place in the world. In fact, I had to go sit with one of the princes in Dubai, because they own the water company, to get this exact permission. And when we sat down, he's looked at it and he said, "Look, you're installing it after the meter on the customer side of the property. It's the same thing like a PRV, a check valve, a gate valve, any of that, which affects downstream pressure, etc." So it's perfectly legal in any country, even the one that we got an approval from the prince. He said, "Look, I think it's great. I hope you make a lot of money. You're installing it on their side of the property. Good luck." So essentially, what's happening is the valve is installed on your side of the property. And there's three scientific principles that are working. It's Bernoulli's principle, Venturi effect, and Boyle's law. And those three scientific principles are in sync, like synchronicity, in order for them to be functioning. And number one, having no impact to the customer's water with maximum savings. That's the goal, right? So what's happening is, since it's on your side of the property, for people like myself, that's not an engineer, but the water will hit up against the valve. Each valve, we have 18 different models of valve, and they're calibrated to the specific environment they're going into. I like to say it's like a thumbprint. So if you have 5 meters, you're going to get 5 valves to your property. Each one is specific to that meter. You can't just start, even if they're the same size, you can't just start switching them around. Each one has a calibration, like this one right here is calibrated 40 to 65 psi. So once the valve is installed, the water will hit up against the calibrated valve. It will give a slight back pressure. The water is 65 times heavier than air. So the air can't compete with the water. So the water just goes right through the valve. However, that slight instant kickback there creates what's called a laminar flow preceding the valve, anywhere from 50 to 100 feet. So this is installed right after the meter. Let's say it's 5 feet, approximately 45 feet or more in front of the meter. That water has not passed through yet, is in that laminar flow state.
So you mentioned things like PRVs and check valves. Are those doing the same thing as the technology that you just mentioned?
In a nutshell, somewhat yes, but nowhere near. Meaning, like a PRV, yes, theoretically, you can reduce consumption, things like that, but it's not forcing the meter to read. So there's different things you can do to reduce consumption and things like that. However, this is a dynamic valve that is constantly working. So, for example, let's say you're at the office this evening, it's late at night and you're in a very industrial area. Your pressure is going to be very high because everybody went home, right? So in the morning, when you come back at 7 a.m. and all the businesses open up their manufacturing, the pressure in the neighborhood will go lower because everybody has demand from the water. So in that particular case, you're probably talking a very drastic difference in PSI. So the valve will be working whether it's low or whether it's high. We have like our new patented system, which I'm holding here. This is actually a dual spring system, which gives a much larger sweet spot. So we used to work within like 25, 30 PSI. Now we can work in ranges of 50. So it will range in that. When it's lower pressure, the lower springs in. When it's higher pressure, the higher springs in. And that way it's maximizing the savings, and most importantly, no effect to the customer's water.
So the valve is working, so air is not going through the meter. We're not getting charged for air. We're just getting charged for water. Where does the air go?
The air, as I mentioned, can't go anywhere. I have some engineers say, well, you can't compress water. It's 3 atmospheres. And we're like, we're not compressing water. We're compressing the entrained air in the water. And they're absolutely correct. So they're correct in saying that, but we're not doing that. We're compressing the entrained air in the system that you can visually see when you're looking, and then you obviously see it going away. So the air is actually going nowhere. It's just being compressed by, let's call it, the big fat water that's 65 times heavier. It's sitting on the air, so to speak. Where's the air going to go? So it's sandwiched between the valve and the water. So the air is here going, oh God, it's so heavy. And then it gets into like little small balls. And then the moment it goes through the valve, as you can see in our video, you'll see sometimes a little bit of cloudiness starting right here. And that's the water already now not under compression anymore, stretching out and going back to it the way it's supposed to be in the turbulent flow.
What's the expected ROI on one of your systems?
We have over 90% of our customers get their money back in the first year, 98 within 14 months. The valve is made of 316L medical grade steel, which is the highest grade, most anti-corrosive steel you can get. So from a health and safety and engineering standpoint, we have every certification you can imagine: ANSI, NSF, IAMPO, CAN 61, Kiwa, and obviously all of those certifications play a very important role. We deal with hospitals, food manufacturing companies, stuff like that, which most of their machinery that touches either patients or food is also made from 316L medical grade steel. So it's a very comforting thing for them to just accept that into their, realm and know that their customers are safe. And as far as the valve itself, it's designed to last for over 100 years without any maintenance. It's as simple as an average of a 32-minute installation, putting it directly after the meter or before the backflow. And like I said, the customers, over 90% of them within the first year. We also offer the product for free. So customers can try up to 5 of them for absolutely free if they have multiple locations. I like to call it the puppy dog close. So, we give them a bunch of puppies to take home, and, the kids are not going to let the puppies come back. And that's really what it is. And then obviously they buy more after that. Now, if you're going residential sizes, that's usually where those longer ones are. The big consumers are very quick. Some of them get their money back in the first month. I have a customer right now with a $17,000 valve and a $620,000 bill. It's the biggest discrepancy I've seen from valve size to bill. So if he saves 20% in his first month, it's $120,000 on a $17,000 valve.
What diameters do these valves come in?
They start at 3/4 inch, which is typically a residential size, and goes all the way up to 32 inches. It's a $599 range to about 700,000. So you mentioned a lot of your customers on this podcast are, dealing with cooling towers and things like that. Those are bigger valves. We deal with a lot of power plants and cooling towers and data centers, and those are typically your bigger size valves. They're using tremendous amounts of water, and manufacturing as well, food production, stuff like that. Those are traditionally your bigger water consumers and bigger valves.
So, for our listeners, what are some things that you want them looking out for, and when should they look at deploying your technology?
So for us, it's a really unique situation, especially for the big players out there. So for example, this valve obviously saves you money, right, on your water bill. So we work with very large, like multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies that have massive real estate portfolios. And years ago, they used to say to me, "Oh, we don't care about saving money on the water bills. We care about the value to our properties." And I was kind of embarrassed to ask because I didn't know what they were saying. Finally, after about 3 or 4 large customers saying that, I said, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Look, we've got big real estate portfolios, investment, businesses and such. So when we're figuring out the value of something, we take the net operating income, we take the interest rate, and we take the capitalization rate." So at the time I was bringing that up with them, it was about, for every $10,000 in net operating income annual increase, was approximately a $250,000 valuation increase to the property. So we installed two valves for them, about 50,000 in valves. They saved 11,000 the first month, and they said, "Thank you for the 3.2 million in valuation." I said, "Oh, now I see why you care more about that, because at 11,000 times 30 months, roughly, you're at your 3.2 million. You just got that in 1 month. Now you do that across all your buildings and go to a bank and get money, your portfolio is worth that much more money." So they care very much about that, the large players. So aside from saving water, it does that. Another thing it does is it saves no water hammering at all. It stops water hammering 100% at the valve. I like to be honest, it wasn't designed to do that. But if there's air, just smacking, 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 it'll never go through until there's enough water to open the valve. Then once the valve opens, water will go through. So for people that have water hammering issues, this saves them a boatload of trouble in the future. On top of that, booster pumps. So we have customers like big ski resorts and customers that have very large booster pumps, expensive pumps. This will drastically increase the life cycle of the pumps, because what's happening is, without the valve, you have that massive turbulent flow coming through, passing under the meter, and then the pumps are grabbing water and cavitating because it's a significant amount of water and air. So over time, that's very detrimental to the life cycle of that pump. So when the valve is in place, now, as I mentioned, which you can see in the video, as the water is leaving, it's in that laminar flow state. Yeah, it's getting maybe a little bit of turbulence, but it's minor, and the pump's right here. It just grabs that beautiful water with no air and cavitation, and then the pump cycles last significantly longer. So the last thing, and I don't know much about this, so don't ask me many questions on this one, I'll lose you here. But some of our really big consumers, most of them like publicly traded companies and stuff like that, their consumption will go down so much with the valve that they get carbon credits, and they sell back carbon credits. So I don't know how it works, but that's another additional way of getting money. And the valve itself is 100% tax write-off. So, and it's free to try, and it also has a 6-month money back guarantee. So even after you try the valve for free, you have an additional 3 months. If for any reason you're not happy, you can return the valve.
Time for a quick break, Scaling Up Nation, as we hear from one of our sponsors. Are your glycol systems protected and operating at their best? Thermal Fluid Technologies is here to ensure they are. Trusted by industry professionals for over 25 years, their protocol heat transfer fluids provide unmatched corrosion protection and system performance for industrial HVAC, process heating and cooling, and food and beverage applications. Need a clean start? Their cleaner and degreaser prepare your system for years of trouble-free service. And their state-of-the-art lab offers one of the most comprehensive coolant testing programs available. Upgrade your system's performance today with Thermal Fluid Technologies. To learn more about Thermal Fluid Technologies, go to scalinguph2o.com/TFT. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/TFT. Thermal Fluid Technologies, where performance meets peace of mind. A big thank you to our sponsors. They help keep us running. And now, back to the interview. So your website does a great job with the video showing exactly what's going on and the air traveling through the meter. Is there any way to demonstrate to one of our customers, hey, this is what's going on. You're not just getting water, you're getting water and air.
Yeah, the best way for me, like I said, I'm a very visual person. So for me, when I first heard about it many years ago, I was like, whoa, what is this? And when I see it visually, I was like, oh, okay, that, makes perfect sense. So as far as demonstrating it, obviously visually is the best. And what we do for our customers, as far as showing the actual savings, we do something, what's called an MNV reconciliation. A lot of our bigger companies, like the publicly traded ones, they do this all day long. There's about $300 billion a year of work done through what's called an MNV reconciliation. It's typically used in energy and water. So this isn't something Aquaflow invented. This has been going on for 50, 80 years. It's a protocol that whether you pick it up, I pick it up, someone down the street picks it up, and they do the same process, they're all going to come out with the same numbers in the savings protocol for the M&V reconciliation. So what we do from that point is every customer, like I just did one before I got on the phone with you, and the customer is saving about 27.8%. So how we do that is we take 12 what we call pre-installation clean months. Clean means the month that the valve was installed. We use that, but it doesn't have heavy weight because there's discrepancies with and without the valve. And then we do stuff with what's called clean post-installation months. So you'll give us at least 3 clean, and I'm saying months, not bills, because in New York it's quarterly. If I said 3 bills, you're going to give me 9 months worth of stuff. So you have to be careful to not say bills, because some are bi-monthly, some are quarterly. So we just need 3 months clean, the installation months, and 12 preceding months, which is 16 months in total. And then as the months go on longer, we can get a more hard, more accurate number. But 3 months is suffice, and that's what they'll get from a second visual standpoint of what they're actually saving, and it will obviously typically reduce consumption. In a sense, I'll explain it for the listeners to make more sense. So we had a car wash that was not using the valve, obviously. They were using 16.03 gallons per car at a little over 22 cents a car. Now they install the valve. Now they're at 13.13 gallons a car and 18.2 cents a car. So where did the 2.7 gallons of water go? Did somebody drink it? Did it evaporate? Did it fall inside the car? No, it was never being used to begin with. It was 16.03 gallons of air and water. When the valve was installed, it forces a true water consumption reading of 13.13 gallons. Therefore, they were never using 16. They were always using 13.13, but the meter was registering 16.03. Now, in that particular case, people look to say, oh, well, my bills should be going down. Well, yes, theoretically, but what if he did 1,000 cars this month and 10,000 cars the next month? It's impossible for his bill to go down. However, when you look at it from an M&V reconciliation standpoint, which is an engineering level, you can clearly see the consumption reduction and everything into the valve is working. So when you're talking to engineers and things like that, the invoice is a tool of accounting done by the municipality. And that's not really what's used in an M&V reconciliation. It's tied to consumption. So if you're a hotel and you're averaging 8 gallons a day per guest, now with the valve, you're averaging 6. It doesn't matter how many guests you have, your consumption is down. Same thing with a stadium. If you do one event this month, 3 the next month, and 10 the next month, it's impossible for your bill to go down. However, your consumption per guest will be going down.
So, to ask about a question I asked in the beginning, we have a customer that's got a cooling tower. They would put one of these valves right after their main meter, and then would they put another one right after the sub meter on the cooling tower?
I wouldn't recommend it, because the way I'm understanding you is the city's giving them a credit for more billing, right? So I would never put a valve there, because you're going to reduce what the city's giving them. We want it to overbill on that side. What they're paying, like on their meter, they have a bill. Let's say it's $100,000 a month for that bill. That's what we want to correct. But if the city downstream is giving them credit for that cooling tower, we don't want to reduce consumption there. We want to leave it as high as possible.
Well, in this circumstance, they would be paying the actual water that they're using on the cooling tower for the makeup, and then they get a credit because there's an additional meter on the bleed. And less than 5% is actually going down the bleed. It's all going to evaporation. So they're giving them a credit because it's not going to the sewer.
Got it. Yeah. So what we would want with them is wherever we want to reduce consumption, we would put a valve. So if they felt like on that out passage there, they wanted to reduce it, we would put a valve. If they felt they wanted the consumption to be higher because it would help them with billing or whatever the credit way it's working, then we would not want to put one there. Same thing like when we just did a car dealership. They had 6 meters. 3 of them, one was $20, one was $30, and one was like $37. So even if we save them 30%, what's $6 on I don't mean to be disrespectful to money, but what is $6 on a $20 bill? But they have a $10,000 bill on their car wash, right? They'd be happy to save 10% on that, which is $1,000 a month, than save even 50% on the other ones. It doesn't mean anything for them, obviously, right? So when we do that, which is with an analysis, when we get their bills and we do their ROI calculations and things like that, we always take that into consideration as well. Is it worth it to put a valve on this meter? In the US, every country is different, but the highest we've ever had is 47% off your monthly water and sewer bills. The lowest is 9. And the nationwide average is between 18 and 22. So 20 is a great number to use as a nationwide average. So if you have a $10,000 bill, water and sewer bill, 2,000 a month, 100,000, 20, on average. Keeping in mind too, is people get caught up sometimes and they only give us their water bill. This works on water and sewer, meaning the sewer bill is comprised of water consumption. So a lot of customers will say, "Oh, here's my water bill," and they don't give the sewer, which is sometimes 3 to 4 times the price. So it's imperative that the customer understands it affects all. And then in rare municipalities, I've seen it here, sanitation is there as well. So it's water, sewer, sanitation. It will drop all three. I've seen it in Cleveland and I've seen it in LA. And in South America, it's very common. And they have poor water infrastructure there, so we get a much higher savings there, but it hits them on water, sewer, and sanitation. Everything drops.
So what's the distance after the meter this valve needs to be installed?
We like to put it as close to the meter as possible, and it can also go before the backflow. So we do something called a site survey, which is very simple, which the customer or their plumber will do, which is take some pictures, give us some information. It goes to our engineering department. Our engineering department will circle the installation location, calibrate the valve specific, like I said, that thumbprint for them, and we send it out. I like to say a dummy like me can do it. It's as simple as looking at a picture with a big green box that says, like, put it here. So each valve comes like this. It comes in like this nice, like, gun case, so to speak, and then it'll come already pre-calibrated. And then the valve comes. The plumber literally just has to take it out, look at the picture, and the average installation is about 32 minutes. In fact, most plumbers that do it, they'll call us and they'll be like, "Hey, what did I just install there for Trace?" And I'm like, "Oh, this was a water. Wow, that was real easy. And I made good money. You have any more?" Like that type of thing. So it's very easy for them. It's the same thing as them installing a PRV or a check valve. It's super easy. Customer doesn't have a lot of downtime. That's one thing, is customers get concerned. They hear about this big savings and they think you're going to come and they're not going to have water for 2 days. And we did last week 3 big installations for a big hotel. We did 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and 17 minutes. We didn't do it, but a plumber did it. So that's how quick it is.
Is it recommended to install a bypass when these are installed?
Some people do it. Some people already have them. It's a very good question that you asked, because what's interesting about the bypass is you can actually watch the valve work, right? So you turn it on the valve, off the valve, very similar to our demonstration on our website. You're seeing the exact same thing. It's a form of a bypass, right? So you have that little lever. We turn it to the side with the valve. We have that valve. We turn it to the side without the valve. So you can run, for instance, 20 minutes, let's say, of water into a big vat without the valve. Then you turn it on with the valve and you run the same exact amount of water, you're going to have a lower consumption. So you can actually watch the valve work in real time. So it's a great question. Some customers do choose to do it when they install. The bigger customers, like hospitals and stuff like that, they all have it already. The hotels, the big hotels and stuff like that, a hospital can't be without water. So they go there, they turn it over to the bypass, they do the installation, no downtime on the water, switch it back over, and they're back up and running on their normal system.
Anthony, other than saving water at the meter, are there other applications for this valve?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. So we just had a company reach out to us that they take care of blood, eggs, and I believe some other substance. And they're doing it in order to take the old product, but it cannot be discarded of without being treated for bacteria purposes, right? So the way it's working is it's in this very large vat, so to speak, let's say the blood, and then they run it through a very thin piece of like clear plexiglass, and then it runs through a UV light that whatever kills the bacteria, and then it goes into its vat, and then they dispose of it. But what they have is a tremendous amount of turbulent flow in there, so it's taking them a lot longer, because let's say inside of that pipe, let's say there's a gallon of blood, but if we put a valve there and it could create that laminar flow, maybe there's 2 gallons of blood at a time in that same area. So then the thing that's zapping it would be doing twice the amount of volume quicker. So they're looking at it, purchasing the valve, and we have to work with the valve because of the viscosity is different. Water is, very thin, blood is a little thicker, egg is a very similar way. So very similar to the oil and gas we talked about earlier, is the technology is the same, for metering. In this particular case, what they're not looking really for is metering. They're looking for a congestion, in a sense, of blood or egg in that pipe to be able to kill more bacteria quicker.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we do have a product that's coming out that's a gas product this year. We're getting it patented. So you'll go to put your gas in your car, and so you have the gas pump, right, which is the female area. You stick our part in there, and then you stick the male part of the pump in, and you'll pump it right through a device kind of like this, right? Like, so the pump would go in there, and then it will give you 10 to 15% more fuel per fill up. Because when you're pumping your gas, you can hear that same turbulence, that so you're paying, and that meter is reading that turbulent flow. When we put that gas valve in, it's going to force that meter to read true gas consumption.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So let's say you fill up 10 gallons, you'll get 11.5 on average. If you do 20, you're at like 23.
Anthony, if somebody wants to find out more about your product, what should they do?
Just go to aquaflow.com. It's AQUAFLOW.com. Definitely check out the video on the homepage. Scroll down a little bit. This is for all you visual people out there. Also, if you mention you are on the H2O podcast, you will get obviously the free trial, and we'll give you a little special bonus as well. And of course, any questions or anything like that, we're always here. Fire away. We're all ears.
We'll be sure to put all of that on our show notes page. This is really intriguing. Thank you for coming on the Scaling Up H2O podcast.
Thank you, Trace, for having us. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with all of your customers and helping them out.
Well, Anthony, thanks for coming on the Scaling Up podcast once again. Anthony and I had a great conversation, actually several conversations after this podcast interview. And we were just talking about all the different applications that we had as a company that we thought that his product would help with. So we've been working with Anthony and he's been helping us. So just like me, you might be thinking there are a couple of areas you want to try this device out in. Well, I was talking to Anthony about this, and he wants to make that as easy as possible. So he's offering members of the Scaling Up Nation a 100% discount for a 90-day trial and an additional 90-day money-back guarantee after you buy it. I thought that was pretty cool. So if you go to their website and you order it, you're going to put in discount code H2O750. Once again, H2O750, and that will give you a 100% discount for 90 days and an additional 90-day money-back guarantee after you buy it. This way, your customers can try it out. You can get proof of concept that it does indeed work. And trust me, you are going to solve so many issues from this device. It's really cool. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. I hope you enjoy finding products out there that can help us on things that maybe we didn't even know we needed help with. Maybe there's something out there that you know about that we can share with other Scaling Up H2O members. Go ahead and let me know what that is. You can make that very easy by going to scalinguph2o.com and going over to our show ideas page and just introducing us to the project or product. and we will get in contact with who we need to get in contact with and bring that to the Scaling Up Nation. Nation, I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. And of course, next Friday, another brand new episode. That will be the last episode in July. And then we're going to be right into Legionella Awareness Month, the entire month of August. Have a great week, folks. Struggling to prepare for the Certified Water Technologist exam? Our Certified Water Technologist prep course is here to help. Gain the confidence you need with comprehensive study materials and a 100-question practice exam. And the best part, we offer a free version to get you started. Head over to scalinguph2o.com/CWT prep and take the first step towards your certification today.